Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. The second guest of the evening covers horse racing for Horse Racing Nation and the Daily Gallop. This podcast will be talking mostly football, though. Jeff Byrnes, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great, Madison. How about you?
I'm doing good. Alrighty. Just Wednesday night raining here. We're gonna talk some football. We're gonna do some playoff picks, Super Bowl, some NFL award picks, and then a little true false game and some quick hitters at the end. We'll start with the playoff picks, and we'll start in the AFC East, and it's obvious, I think, where you're gonna go and where I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots. Of course, this is pretty much almost the same team that's coming back as last year. Of course, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Josh Gordon just got reinstated, so that bolsters their wide receiver depth. Obviously, the loss of Gronkowski is going to loom large, but I think they'll be okay over at the tight end position. The AFC East actually should be a very interesting division this year. I think the Patriots will win, but I will not be surprised at all if the New York Jets actually make a run. I think they're actually going to surprise some people this year because they made a lot of upgrades at the offensive line and also the wide receiver depth to help Sam Darnold. So I think the Jets can actually pull off a couple of surprises, but I still think the Patriots will be the perennial favorites, and I think should win the AFC East this year.
I agree with you there. To me, it's the Patriots division to lose as long as Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are in town. How about the AFC North? I think that this is an interesting division. How about you?
Yeah, this is another wide open division. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns. We all know what they did this offseason. Training for Odell Beckham Jr., trading for Olivier Vernon, signing Kareem Hunt, even though he will serve an 8-game suspension. But we always know how dangerous he is in the backfield. But a year or two of Baker Mayfield, I think this is going to be a big year for the Browns. Steelers are going to have a lot of questions to answer with Ben Roethlisberger and how that team is going to handle without Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. But I actually like the Ravens. I think the Ravens, though their stacked defense is still intact. Their biggest loss was C.J. Mosley, who went to the Jets. But that's a very good team. Lamar Jackson entering his second season after the trade of Joe Flacco. This is his team now. They got a good wide receiver depth. They got great running back depth. Lamar Jackson, of course, he's a scrambler. He's a thrower. So I think the Ravens, I think they're going to surprise some people and going to pull it off this year.
Wow. All right. Hey, scoreboard update. Cubs up 6-0 on the Mets. Just have that on the big screen, and that's a surprise in the first inning. But this isn't a baseball podcast. This is a football podcast. But, yeah, my first guest actually chose the Ravens as well. That's an interesting call. Do I think that they'll be a good team? They should be. But I'm not sold on the Ravens, really, as a division champion. How about the AFC South?
Well, my original pick was going to be the Indianapolis Colts, but obviously the starting news of Andrew Luck retiring this past week, I think has really changed things. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett is now the starting quarterback. There was a report out today that the Colts actually brought in Brock Osweiler to possibly be a backup to Jacoby Brissett, possibly bring in some veteran depth, so we'll see how they handle their QB situation, but even though the loss of Andrew Luck, I think it changes a lot of things, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans in the AFC South. I think Deshaun Watson has gotten better as his career has gone on. I think, obviously, they just lost Lamar Miller, but they still have Duke Johnson. He's a very good running back, but he's going to get a lot more workload. DeAndre Hopkins, of course, is there. Best wide receiver in the league, in my opinion. You get Will Fuller back at the wide receiver depth. Of course, he was lost by the ACL injury last year. He's not fully healthy, so if that offensive line can do a better job protecting Deshaun Watson, I think they can win this division. The Colts are a wild card for me. I think even though they lost Andrew Luck, I think Jacoby Brissett is actually going to have a pretty decent year. I know you look at his win-loss record from 2017, but the 2019 Colts are a lot better than that team. They have much better offensive line, defense is stacked, better wide receiver depth. It's just up to Jacoby Brissett to see if he can lead this team. I think. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the Texans in the AFC South.
That, to me, is a very good pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars was my previous guest selection, and that's not a terrible pick either. There are some people that like the Colts, actually, even though Luck is out because of the talent on the roster. I think that division's very weak now that Luck is hurt. So it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out of that division. AFC West.
AFC West, I think it's going to be between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs again. I just think ultimately with Patrick Mahomes, of course he's coming in off his second full season. I think with Tyreek Hill coming back and all the wide receiver depth, I think this is the Chiefs division to lose again. I think Andy Reid's got a good playbook over there. They just brought in Steve Spagnuolo as a new defensive coordinator. I think they're going to make some nice changes over there at the defensive positions. So if Patrick Mahomes gives up another solid year like he did last year, I think the Chiefs are going to be just fine in the AFC West.
The Chiefs and the Chargers, I think, will be battling out that division as well. It would not surprise me if either of those teams came out on top. Who are your two wild card selections?
My two wild card selections, I'm going to go. I'm going to go with the Colts for one of my selections. I think they still have a good enough team to compete. Despite the loss of Andrew Luck, it's not the end of the world for them. Like I said, they have much better offensive line. Defense has gotten much better wide receiver depth. It's just the biggest question for them is can Jacoby Brissett truly lead this team to either a division title or a wild card? It's a big year for him because now he's going into the final year of his contract. So basically, not only is he playing, for a possible chance to get a playoff spot and taking this Colts team to a Super Bowl, but he's playing for a contract next year. So he's going to have a lot to prove, and he's going to be more motivated than ever. So I think the Colts are going to be one team. Another team, I think the Cleveland Browns are ultimately going to be the second wild card. I think they just so much better on the offense and defensive side. They're just trending in the upward direction. Everything's going their way so far. As long as everybody can stay healthy, as long as they can cohese together, I think those two, the Colts and the Browns, will be the wild cards on the AFC.
The Browns are a good pick. The Colts is an interesting pick. I wouldn't rule that out because of the talent on the roster, but we shall see. Let's go to the NFC East. I think that's a two-horse race. How about you?
I do too. I think it's between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Redskins and Giants, they're rebuilding years. Both those guys have massive starting quarterback issues to deal with right now. But ultimately, I think I'm going to go with the Eagles in the East. I think with Carson Wentz coming back, he's going to have a lot to prove this year, not only for how he can lead this team, but also for himself. Because he's never, minus his rookie year, he's never actually had a full season completely healthy. And now with Nick Foles gone and in Jacksonville, he's going to have to prove to everybody, hey, I can lead this team to a playoff, and I can lead this team back to the Super Bowl. So, Carson Wentz, we know how good he can be when he's fully healthy. We know how good he can be when he has the team on his back. But right now, I think the Eagles, they keep stacking up on the offense. Deshaun Jackson coming back was a big plus for them. Defensive side of the ball, they're just everybody's staying healthy over there. So I want to go with the Eagles in the East.
Not a bad pick. I think either them or the Cowboys can win that division. How about the NFC North, which I think is one of the best divisions in the sport?
I agree. Yeah, it's a very tough. This is going to be a tough division. Obviously, the Packers. Matt LaFleur entering his first full season as the Green Bay coach. It's going to be a lot of questions as to whether he and Aaron Rodgers can have chemistry over there. Kirk Cousins is going to have a make or break season again. He's got to prove that he's the real deal up there. But I'm going to go with the Bears. They're coming off a 12-4 season last year. I think they can repeat as NFC North champions. Mitchell Trubisky, he's been getting better as the years go on. Now in year 2 with Matt Nagy, I think he's getting even more impressive. The defensive side of the ball, Khalil Mack leading the way. I think they're going to see a bunch of sacks, a bunch of low-scoring games for Chicago Bears. They're feeling a lot of confidence over there in that building. So I'm going to go with the Bears in the NFC North.
Yes, that's a very good selection. NFC South, I have a feeling we have the same choice here.
Yes, I'm going with the Saints. Not a lot of things have changed over there. Obviously, they're coming off that controversial finish in the NFC Championship. They're hungry. They're more motivated than ever. And plus, Drew Brees, he's over 40 years old now, so he's probably entering the very last year, maybe last couple of years of his career. And who knows? This could be it for Drew Brees. They're going to go on probably one last run with him. Michael Thomas coming back. Drew Brees, he's still throwing the ball great. Defensive side of the ball, nothing really has changed much. So the division over in the South is really not as tough as it used to be. Plus, with Cam Newton going down with that ankle injury, we don't know exactly what his status is for Week 1. Jameis Winston has many, many questions, and that new coaching staff over in Tampa. And Dan Quinn over in Atlanta, if they don't pull it together, we could see a coaching change over there. I just think the Saints are too strong in the South.
Yes, I agree with you that the Saints should win that division. The NFC West, I have a feeling we're in agreement on as well.
The NFC West, I don't know. I'm going with the Seahawks in the NFC West. I think, obviously, the Rams are coming up a 13-3 year. Jared Goff probably had one of his best years, but also was a little iffy on the passing side. But I think the Rams might have a little bit of a hangover from last year. I think they're still going to have a good year, but the Seahawks. I mean, you can't never count out guys with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. I think they always have a plan, and just when it seems like they get off to slow starts or if they get off to not so great start, they always come through towards the end. Russell Wilson is clearly the best. I think the best quarterback in that division by far. Their defense, of course, is continuing to get better. So I think I'm going to go with the Seahawks in the NFC West.
Wow, I'm very surprised you went there. The Seahawks, we'll get to more about them in a little bit, if that is among the statements I have listed. But I'm a big Russell Wilson fan, but I don't know if their defense is going to be as good. Don't forget that they lost Frank Clark for a suspension, and then they traded Frank Clark, and then somebody got suspended. Oh, Jerron Reed got suspended, so I had some major reservations among their pass rush, although their secondary is not as bad as people think it is. How about your NFC wildcard teams?
The two wildcard teams are going to be the Dallas Cowboys in the first wildcard. Obviously, there's still lingering questions over whether Zeke will return just in time for Week 1. Jerry Jones made some very interesting comments today over in Dallas that makes it indicate that it sounds like they're preparing for life without Zeke, at least for the time being. So, obviously, they want to win some games early in the season, and Zeke would be a big help for them over there. Dak Prescott is going into another big season. I don't know whether he can, step it up. He's got to step up big time if he's going to want to win this division. Of course, Amari Cooper is coming back. Jason Witten, I think, will be a nice veteran presence as he returns from retirement. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys in the first wild card. And the second wild card, I'm going to go with the Packers. I think they will have a bounce back year. I think it's Aaron Rodgers. We can never count out Aaron Rodgers on anything. And I think Matt LaFleur, I think he's a good offensive guru for him. They got improved mightily on the defensive side of the ball. I think they got some nice gains over on the wide receiver depth. So, two wild cards are going to be the Cowboys and the Packers.
Wow, so no Rams and no Vikings in the postseason. That's a bit of a surprise for me. Who's your Super Bowl pick?
My two Super Bowl picks, I'm going to go with the Saints on the NFC side. Because like I said, it's Drew Brees. I think they're going to be more motivated than ever. I think they're going to go one last run with him. Before we'll see what happens. But with him, I think you believe he's contemplating retirement very soon. And on the AFC side, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think they overcome last year's AFC Championship loss, and I think they advanced to their first Super Bowl in a very, very long time.
Wow, who do you have coming out on top?
I have the Chiefs. I think, obviously Patrick Mahomes. I think the defense is going to be mightily improved. Wide receiver depth is support very good right now. So as long as Mahomes stays healthy, I think the Chiefs are going to go a long way this year.
Okay. That to me is a little bit of a surprising pick to go against the Patriots in the AFC, but I think that the gap between the Patriots and the rest of the AFC contenders is not as big as it once was. I just had a feeling you were going to go with New England to represent the AFC. That's why you kind of blew me away on that one. Who's your pick for the regular season MVP?
My MVP is Christian McCaffrey. I think entering this is his third full year in the league. He is an electrifying running back. He can do all sorts of things. Run. He has great running depth. He can catch passes. He is explosive offensive player. He seems to be getting better every single year he plays. Now, and I believe now we can't. Obviously, there's a lot of questions with the Panthers wide receiver depth. I think he's going to do a lot more than he has ever done before in his career. Obviously, I think with Cam Newton coming back, I think they said he'll play week 1, but we'll see. He's going to do a lot of running this year, and he's an explosive player. So I think if he can help the Panthers get to at least like a wild card or even a division title, I think he will win MVP this year.
Wow. That's, to me, a surprise pick. I don't know who I'm going to pick for the MVP because I had Andrew Luck penciled in black pen, and now he's obviously not going to win the award. So there's that. True false game. I'm going to throw out a statement, and you tell me whether you think it's true or false, and I'll give you what I feel as well. First one. This is an interesting one, and I think you're going to say false right off the bat. The Bills finished second in the AFC East.
I say false. I think the Bills are still about a year or two away from being truly competitive in that division. I think Josh Allen, the quarterback, is going to have a much better year. But I just think the Patriots and I think the Jets are just going to run away with the AFC East. I think the Jets will be number 2.
I agree that the Jets will be the number 2 team, so I'm going false there as well. Ryan Fitzpatrick starts more games than Josh Rosen. True or false?
False. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick will start probably weeks 1 through 3. I give him until week 3, and if the Dolphins are 0-3 at that point, that's when I think they'll turn it over to Josh Rosen. I think he's going to. I mean, clearly his first year was not a great year, but he had a terrible offensive line in Arizona, not great wide receiver depth. I think he's going to a much better environment over in Miami, so I think by week 3 we'll see Josh Rosen.
I agree with you. I think that is a false as well, and I think maybe Rosen starts 10 games and Fitz starts like 6. I could see them starting Fitz early, and then he gets hot, and then he turns into a pumpkin, and then they go to Josh Rosen, and he finishes off the season for the Dolphins. I think you're going to say false here because you're high on this team. Lamar Jackson regresses from his rookie year and has a sophomore slump.
False. I think Lamar Jackson, I think he'll be okay. I mean, there's been a lot of question marks as to whether he's a true passer. I've seen him throw. He's a very good passer. I mean, I know he's no more for his feet and his quickness, but when he gets hot with the ball, he can do a lot of great things. I think Lamar Jackson will be just fine. So I don't think he'll regress. I actually expect him to have a much better year this year, in year 2.
I'm going to say true on this one, and that's not necessarily all his fault. I'm just not a fan of his wide receivers and tight ends. I think that's going to be more of a running offense rather than a passing offense, and his stats aren't really going to show the progress that people think. I think Lamar will be a solid player someday, but maybe year 3 will be his big breakthrough year rather than year 2. Ryan Finley starts a game for the Cincinnati Bengals. True or false?
I believe right now that's undecided for me. I would lean towards false because I think it's ultimately going to depend on like where the Bengals are in week number 8. I believe if they get off to like a 4-4 start or at least anything under, I think that's going to be up to them. But I believe Andy Dalton will start at least 10 games, if anything.
So you think that's a true. So you say that he will start a game for the Bengals at some point, or you think Dalton starts all 16?
I think it's going to depend on ultimately what their record is, but the end, I think ultimately, we'll go true. Yeah, we'll go true.
I'm going to say true as well, and I think it's going to be because the Bengals are out of it, and maybe Dalton suffers an injury or something, and I think they want to see Finley in real play, because don't forget they have a new coach there in Zach Taylor, and we really don't know if Dalton is his guy or not. We'll learn more in the season. I have a feeling we're going to say false on this one. Jadeveon Clowney in a Texans uniform when they take on the New Orleans Saints in week 1 of the NFL season.
False. I do not believe Jadeveon Clowney will be in a Texans uniform. I mean, it clearly indicates the Texans are not willing to pay him the money, and they're very divided on where they are in his current contract right now. There have been rumors that he's going to be traded in the not too distant future. there were rumors, I believe, early yesterday that he wanted to go to the Miami Dolphins, which could be a big upgrade for their defense. Also, the Eagles and Seahawks have been rumored to be linked to Jadeveon Clowney, but I think we've seen the last of Clowney in a Texans uniform.
I agree with you. I think that's a false as well. And it'd be interesting if they moved him to Miami, because if if Houston can get back Laramie Tunsil in return, I don't think that's a big loss as people are making out to be, because Tunsil will vastly improve the biggest weakness of their team, which is the offensive line. Next one. Ryan Tannehill starts more games than Marcus Mariota. True or false?
I say true, because Mariota just can't stay healthy. I mean, every single year it seems like there's something wrong with him. Plus, we don't know if he's actually the capable quarterback that the Texans drafted him to be. Since he was drafted number 2 overall, he's actually been a pretty big disappointment in the NFL. So I don't know exactly how far the Titans are willing to hold a leash on him. I believe Ryan Tannehill will get at least maybe 4 or 5 games this season, but it's going to depend on Mariota's health. He needs to stay healthy in order for the Titans to compete, and this is going to be a big year for him as well.
I'm going to say false, and I'm going to say that Mariota starts 12 and Tannehill starts 4, and I'm going to say Mariota gets hurt, but he won't miss that much time, because Mariota seems to get hurt every single year. I think that's the worst team in that division. Drew Lock will start a game for the Denver Broncos this season. True or false?
I say false. Well, obviously it looks like he has an injury right now, so he's not going to be on the sideline, or at least ready to play for the first few weeks. But I think as of this year, it's going to be a learning year for him. They'll probably sit him behind Joe Flacco, and unless Denver's completely out of this division, let's say they're 5 and 10. Towards the end of the season, then I see possibly they suit up Drew Lock for a start. But I think they're going to take that year and just learn behind the veteran. I think it's Joe Flacco's team this year, and they're going to see how far they're willing to go with him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a false, and I think that the Broncos could be a possible surprise team in the AFC potentially if Flacco is somewhat competent and their running backs and receivers play up to capability. And plus the injuries concerning for Locke, so I'm going to say false on that one too. Antonio Brown finishes in the top 5 in receiving yards. True or false?
I say false. I think he'll have a decent year, but I think that right now with him, there's way too many distractions with the helmet, and of course he's been battling some injuries with his foot. But I think he'll have a decent year. It's going to depend on the play of Derek Carr. If Derek Carr needs to improve this year, if he can find the open receivers, if he can get out in the pocket, if the offensive line can do a better job for him, then he can do everything he can to get the ball to Antonio Brown. But right now, he hasn't played a preseason game yet. I don't think he's going to play at all in the preseason. So he's going to have a lot of question marks going into this year.
I agree. I'm going to say false as well. And I can name possibly 10 guys that could finish with more receiving yards than Antonio Brown. Ezekiel Elliott will not play Week 1 against the New York Football Giants. True or false?
True. I do not think he's going to play Week 1. Unless there's a complete change of heart from Ezekiel Elliott and the Jones family down in Dallas. Because right now, everything, the way it's looking, they're way far apart on their contract talks. Of course, it came out last week that he was offered a contract to be the second highest paid running back in the league behind Todd Gurley. And reportedly, he laughed it off. So I don't think they're close. I don't think they're going to see a deal anytime soon. So they could play the long game with Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I won't be that shocked if he misses multiple games, but I think he'll be back at some point during the season, especially if the Cowboys are a little desperate. Dwayne Haskins starts the most games for the Washington Redskins this season. True or false?
I say true. I think Dwayne Haskins will start at some point this year. I think it's going to depend on where the Redskins are by the time they head for their bye week. If the Redskins have let's say, are 2-6 by 8 week, or 2-6 by week 8, then I think we will see Dwayne Haskins. It's right now. It's really it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the situation
I agree with you. I think we'll see Haskins possibly sooner than that if Keenum struggles out of the gate. I think you're going to say false on this one because you picked this team to make the postseason. The Green Bay Packers won't have a winning record.
Well, considering I picked them for the postseason, I will say false. But I think this is a new team, a new regime. It's Aaron Rodgers. I think I know they have some questions about the wide receiver depth, but they always find a way to pull one out of a hat. And I just think year one, I think it's going to go really well. Matt LaFleur, of course, learned under Sean McVay. He worked under the Titans team, so I think he's going to be. I think he'll be a good head coach up in Green Bay, and I think the first year is going to be a good year for Green Bay.
I'm going to say true on that one. I think their division's very, very tough, and Rodgers has not stayed healthy over the last few years, so I'm a little concerned about Green Bay. If you told me that Rodgers is healthy for 16 games and he's the Aaron Rodgers from a few years ago, then I'll probably would join you in saying false. This is one I think you might say true because you did not pick this team to make the postseason. Kirk Cousins will prove to be one of the bigger free agent busts over the last few years.
I think you will. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Kirk Cousins does this year. Obviously, he was hot and cold last year in his first year in Minnesota. 1 week he did not look. 1 week he doesn't look good, and next week he looks like Joe Montana. But I think Kirk Cousins actually has a lot to prove, not only to his team, to himself. Of course, he got that big contract a couple years ago, and now he's going to have a lot more pressure facing him. So it'll be interesting to see how Kirk Cousins does this year.
Yeah, I'm going to say true as well, but he has a great team around him, and I think there's a chance they make the playoffs, but I just don't trust that guy in a big spot, and that's ultimately what he's going to be judged upon with his Vikings tenure and the big contract he got. Drew Brees will show signs of decline, true or false?
I don't think so. I'm going to say false. I think Brees, the way he's looked in practice, the way he's looked in, at camp, I think he still looks very good. I know he just turned 40 years old this year, but I think, he's going to be more, like I said, he's going to be a lot more motivated than ever, along with the entire Saints team. If anything, I would say maybe towards the end of the season, we'll maybe start to see a little bit of a decline in him. But I ultimately think he's going to have another great year over in New Orleans.
I think he's going to have a fantastic season. Chip on his shoulder after the devastating loss a year ago, so I'm going to say false on that one as well. Cam Newton misses week 1 against the Rams, true or false?
I think he will play. The coaches seem optimistic, so I'm going to say true. The coaches seem optimistic that he's going to play. Newton's already out of a walking boot. He's already going through drills. So I think we will see Cam Newton week 1. How he performs in that game, we're not sure. We'll see how the ankle holds up, but ultimately I think he will play.
So you think he will play. All right, so that I worded it Cam Newton misses game 1, so that's a false. So I'm going to say false too, and I'm going to assume he does play in week 1 against the Rams because of the positive reports that the coaches are revealing. Jimmy Garoppolo will perform like a top 10 quarterback, true or false?
I'm going to say false. I think he's going to have a good year. The question is going to be his health, because in his career, I believe he's never actually played more than 6 games in a regular season. I mean, obviously because he was a backup for a while, but the first full year, obviously, we don't know how his injured ACL is going to hold up. Is he going to come back? Is he going to have a bounce-back year in San Francisco? And how far can he take that team? I think he'll have a good year, but I don't think he's going to have a great year. I think he's going to need at least another year to at least get himself fully back into shape.
All right, I am with you there. I'm going to say false, and I'm going to say that he will have a good year, but not a great year, and I'm not convinced that the 49ers are a playoff team. The Arizona Cardinals will have the worst record in the NFC. True or false?
I'd say true, because that offensive line is still not very good. And, I believe we saw in the preseason, Kyler Murray was getting roughed up against Oakland, and the Cardinals are going to go as far as that offensive line takes them. And, Kyler Murray could be a sensational talent. He could be a generational talent, as a lot of people have said. But if that offensive line is not in good shape, if they don't get the help that Kyler Murray or David Johnson need, then they're not going to go very far. So I'd say true.
I agree with you, although I won't rule out the possibility of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers having the worst record in the NFC. I think that a different team, notably from the AFC, will have the worst record in the NFL, but I think Arizona will have the worst record in the NFC. Eli Manning or Tom Brady, one of those guys will retire after the season, true or false?
I say true. Obviously, Tom Brady has, of course, there's been a lot of question marks as to whether he's going to even stick around in New England after this season. Of course, he's continuously said over and over he wants to keep playing until he's 45. He's only 42 years old. So right now, I mean, the Patriots reportedly are very much in love with Jarrett Stidham, who they drafted in this year's draft. And so, of course, Tom Brady put up his New England mansion up for sale, so a lot of people making a big deal out of that. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see after the season. I think with him, it's going to depend on if they make this another Super Bowl or not. If Brady has somewhat of a down year, then maybe they could possibly either move on or see him retire. But I think ultimately he's going to keep playing. Eli, I think it's a completely different story. I think he could possibly be done after this year. You know, obviously they drafted Daniel Jones at number 6, and they want to turn the keys over to him, possibly after this season or even earlier.
Yes, I believe one of them will retire. I just don't know which one. Multiple coaches will be fired during the season, true or false?
I say false. I don't think multiple. I think you will see at least one. And I think that one, I think it's going to be Jay Gruden for the Washington Redskins, because right now that team is just not. They just have not been competitive. They've been struggling with the quarterback depth. I know Alex Smith came over last year to be the starting quarterback, but they really have not recovered since then. Case Keenum's not the answer, and if they turn it over to Dwayne Haskins and during this season he doesn't figure it out, I believe there's going to be a coaching change in Washington.
That's a good call. I think multiple coaches will be fired during the season, and a lot of them will be fired after the season. There's a lot of coaches on the hot seat, including Jay Gruden out in Washington, and some in his own division. Pat Shurmur at the Giants, Jason Garrett at the Cowboys. If things go bad with Philly, I could see Doug Peterson out of a job potentially. Atlanta, Dan Quinn. Carolina, Ron Rivera. Minnesota, Zimmer. If Cousins flops like you suggest, I think Zimmer could be out of a job too. And out in the NFC West, I think Kyle Shanahan's in trouble, especially if the 49ers are not a playoff team. In the AFC, I think everyone in the AFC East is safe, but don't sleep on Sean McDermott getting fired if the Bills are like a disastrous 3-13 team, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the Bills are better than 3-13. Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, and if the Browns are an underachieving team, I won't be surprised if Freddie Kitchens is one and done. Jim Harbaugh, there's been rumors about him wanting to leave Baltimore, but I don't think they would fire him per se. There's so many coaching changes possibilities in the NFL this year. And Bill O'Brien in Houston, I feel like he's been rumored on the hot seat so much over the last few years. And then I think everybody in the AFC West is safe unless if Anthony Lynn and the Chargers have a bad season. I could see a world where Anthony Lynn is fired. So I just rattled off 10, 11, 12 coaches where I think there's a chance that they're fired. So multiple coaches, I think, will be fired during and after the season. Oh, and another one I forgot is Matt Patricia in Detroit. I think if they have a disastrous year, he's gone too. And here's another true-false for you. Multiple Sunday night football games will be flexed out. True or false?
Multiple games will be blacked out?
Flexed out.
That's gonna be a tough one. I'll go with true on that one. Yeah, I think we'll be.
I believe that will be a true as well, especially the Andrew Luck retirement news. They're going to flex a lot of Colts Sunday night football games out. And I could see a world say if the Steelers are underachieving, for example, I could see them flexing out one of those games, or the Cowboys, if they're an underachieving team, or the Eagles, or somebody like that underachieves, I could see them flexing out of those games, especially all those Colts games. I think they'll flex some of them out. And don't forget, Thursday nights and Monday nights cannot be flexed out either. Thanksgiving. So it's just like Sunday Night Football on NBC games that could be flexed out. And in Green Bay, if they have a down year.
I will say, if there is a team that probably will get flexed out, it probably will be the Colts because of the Andrew Luck retirement. And I think it's going to be depending on when they do get on Sunday night, what their record is, if Jacoby Brissett, has an up and down year. But if there's one team that will get flexed out, I guarantee will be the Colts.
I think it'll be the Colts as well. That's why I think the multiple Sunday Night Football flexes is true. Last true false for you. This is a fun one. An NFL star player will appear on Season 2 of Fox's hit show, The Masked Singer. True or false?
True. I better hope so.
I hope so, too.
I hope so, too. Antonio Brown was great last year. Let's just get that out of the way.
He was.
I was very disappointed he got eliminated very early.
Yeah, I have a feeling somebody will. We just don't know who it is. Antonio Brown was certainly a big surprise. I remember the one judge, Robin Thicke, thought it was Odell. And I didn't think it was Odell. And then Terry Bradshaw, who's obviously a broadcaster for Fox. I think it could be another Fox broadcaster, but the prediction was an NFL player. Last year we saw Antonio Brown. I'm not going to give away who I think it could be. Maybe I'll save that for my big NFL predictions thing that comes out next Wednesday. A couple quick hits for you before we go. One football and a couple baseball. Give me your thoughts on the Andrew Luck retirement.
I was stunned. I was completely stunned. I actually, I just returned home from vacation when I got the message over my phone that Andrew Luck retired, and I, to be honest with you, I thought it was a joke at first. And then, of course, the reports started coming out more and more that Luck was retired, and it was absolutely stunning. I mean, and when he gave that press conference, you could tell he was completely out of it. He looked mentally out of it. I need to get out of here. Get my mind back in the head right. But obviously, he's going to be missed in the NFL. When he was completely healthy, he was an electrifying player to watch. I just think the Colts. I think the Colts messed up by not giving him the offensive line help that he needed for so many years. He took a beating over there, so it was stunning.
I was absolutely stunned too. I was at a party on Saturday night, and I had to go in the dining room of my friend's house for a half hour to process it. I was so shocked. I'm a big Andrew Luck fan, so I was obviously very disappointed, but I understand, obviously, why he did it. Two quick baseball ones for you. There's a report out today from ESPN that the Cubs may gauge offers for Chris Bryant in the offseason. No way they trade Chris Bryant, right?
I think it's going to depend on what offer they get. I mean, what depends on what team they engage with. Do they go possibly for the Houston Astros, and they say, hey, trade, we'll give you Chris Bryant for maybe Garrett Cole? Or do they possibly, maybe look at the team like maybe the Boston Red Sox? Maybe do they try a blockbuster trade over there? Because the Red Sox, we know that's a team that could use a star player like Chris Bryant, but I don't think they want to give up any more of their farm system. But I think I don't think it's out of the possibility. I mean, we've seen strange things happen in baseball, so if Chris Bryant's traded, it's going to be a shocker.
It is going to be a shocker. And the thing with Chris Bryant is that he could potentially be traded to a team that already has a third baseman. Because here's the thing with Bryant. He's a versatile guy. He can play third, and he can play right field, and he can play left field. So that really could help a team. And he could benefit an American League team, too, because of the DH role. To me, he's more of a DH type of player. But that's not to say that he's a bad defensive player. He's a very good defensive player at third base. He's okay in left field, better than his teammate Kyle Schwarber in left field. And he's actually decent in right field, too. So it should be interesting to see the suitors. Maybe the Philadelphia Phillies, if the Phillies are looking for another star player, to go with Bryce Harper, and they could put him in left field. Or if they give up on Maikel Franco at third base, they can put Bryant there. There's some possibilities with Bryant, but I just don't see the Cubs trading him. I just think that it was just something that was thrown out in the baseball industry to see for clicks. Although I think there's a chance Mookie Betts is traded this offseason. What do you make about Mookie Betts' future in Boston?
I agree. I think Mookie Betts is more likely to be traded than Chris Bryant, but they have a very interesting situation up in Boston. They got a situation with Mookie Betts. JD Martinez can opt out of his contract. If Mookie Betts is traded, they better get back a lot of pieces because, like I said, their farm system is not entirely great. And the last thing they want to do, though, I mean, Mookie Betts is a homegrown player. I don't think they want to lose a player of that caliber, but as they say, it's business. So if he's ultimately traded, I could see him going to maybe like an NL team that could use a star outfielder like him. But I won't actually be surprised if he's not with the Red Sox next year.
You won't be surprised if he's still with the Red Sox next year. I agree with you there, but I think that chances are that he's the more likely star player traded than Chris Bryant. And by the way, you proposed Bryant for Garrett Cole. Cole's a free agent after the end of the year. I don't know if you realized that.
That's right, yeah.
Maybe like a Lance McCullers Jr. and throw in a couple other pieces to go to Chicago. Maybe Yordan Alvarez, but he's more of a DH type of player. I could see a world where they do McCullers and Forrest Whitley, that other hot pitching prospect they have, and a couple of their pieces in their minor league system, although they gave up a lot for Zach Greinke. So we'll see. And I think that's something that the Astros might explore if they don't win the World Series this year. Last thing before we go, somebody that you, me, and our buddy Doug Saravo know is playing as a backup catcher for the Kansas City Royals, Nick Dini. And he hit a home run in Camden Yards. Do you think it's awesome that somebody we know is playing baseball for a professional baseball team?
I think it's fantastic. Obviously, I knew Nick Dini for a little bit. Played some baseball with him. I had some family members that played baseball with him. I think it's very cool to see a kid from Monroe Township playing Major League Baseball, and hitting a home run in the first couple games you're up there. That's a pretty good sign. Obviously, we wish him all the best. I hope he does succeed with the Royals or wherever else he goes. So it's very exciting to see someone from Monroe, in any sport, for that matter, just have success.
I know, it's such a great story. I'm so happy for him. And obviously, Salvador Perez is hurt for the Royals, so that's where that opportunity came from. He was out for the year. Then they traded Martin Maldonado, so he got a couple lucky breaks that go his way. I'm so happy for him. If you didn't see the videos on Facebook of his sister Victoria going absolutely bonkers when he hit the home run, she was screaming. And then MLB Network posted a tweet from a Royals beat writer saying that he has a big crowd here in Baltimore from New Jersey, and they literally were just going crazy. Seeing things like that really makes me warm my heart very much. All right, it was good to have you on today. We'll have you on again maybe before the hockey season to offload some of those predictions, and obviously at the end of October before the Breeders' Cup gets underway. It's good to have you on today, Jeff.
Always good to come on, Madison. Thank you.